Hey, what's going on, everyone? What's going on? Your friend Dean Kulaweera here. Every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, I'm right here to talk about and share job search and recruitment tips, advice, strategies that you can apply to your job search. So, appreciate you tuning in. Let me just quickly go live on Instagram as well. I'm not sure if the notification even went out on LinkedIn. I'm not sure what's going on today, but let's see here. But hey, I appreciate you tuning in. If you are tuning in, let me know where you're tuning in from, who you are, where you're tuning in from, what city, and all that good stuff. And let's get right into the session. So it looks like there might be some issues with LinkedIn because I'm not seeing anyone tuning in from LinkedIn. So I don't know if there's some kind of LinkedIn related issues today. But in any case, the show must go on. All right. So I'll let me know, whether you're tuning in from YouTube, Facebook, LinkedIn, or any of the other platforms. Happy to have you here and see you here. I got my friend Amit in the house, Amit Naik. Good to see you, Amit. Hope you're doing great. And shout out to everyone on Instagram tuning in as well. I was having some issues with Instagram over the last couple of weeks, so hopefully there's no issues with Instagram. And those of you folks tuning in from Instagram are able to get value out of today's session. So, quick shout out again to everyone tuning in from LinkedIn, YouTube, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. Appreciate you having in. It's your first time tuning in. Make sure you mark your calendars, folks. If you're a job seeker, whether actively or passively, every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern Time Zone, I'm right here to share job search tips, advice, and strategies you can apply to your job search based on my experiences working on the front lines as a recruiter in tech for almost 9 years. So that being said, I do try to share tips and advice that apply regardless of your industry, and you don't have to be an IT professional to benefit from my session. So if you're not in IT, do not feel like you're a stranger. You're most welcome to stay, hang out with me, and listen to my tips and advice that I wanted to share with you. So today, what I wanted to speak about is job descriptions. All right. For most of you out there, the job description is like the first point of contact you have with a potential company, or an organization, or even with a staffing agency out there, right? And what I wanted to share with you today is simply a major mistake I see so many job applicants, so many job seekers make at this very initial stage of their job search, which is simply looking at job postings. And this is a mistake I'm going to talk about today. A lot of you are making, so definitely be prepared to take notes. But before I do that, I definitely wanted to share with you some great feedback I received from one of you that continuously follows me and shares and joins into my sessions. I got a message from someone who said, "Hi Dean, I found a 12-month internship as a business intelligence analyst at," and I removed the company name, but it's a great company, by the way. And they go on to say, "Good opportunity for experience, exposure, and the pay is good. Thank you for the tips and all the help, folks." I love receiving this type of feedback. So look, if you're looking for a reason to follow me, uh, guarantee you'll hear some type of tips, advice, or something of value that you can apply to your job search. I'm not saying all of you are going to leave here and end up with jobs, but what I'm saying is you will leave here for sure as a better, more well-informed job seeker, right? So hey, I always appreciate any of these feedbacks I get from people that tune in. So we got another. Yeah, good. Keep the comments coming, folks. I'm gonna get into today's session because I want to make sure that you folks tuning in get good value out of it. Now, what I wanted to focus on today, folks, in regards to job descriptions, is again how a lot of you, or many of you, are ruling yourself out. A lot of you are removing yourself from potential opportunities that you might very well be an amazing, fantastic fit for, right? And what's happening is, and feel free to share in the comments what your process is when you're evaluating a job description, because what I'm finding in my conversations with job seekers and job applicants over the past many years working in recruitment is, a lot of you, what you're doing is you're reading over the job descriptions, you're noticing a couple of things you don't have experience with, and you're telling yourself, hey, you know what, looks like I don't have everything that they're looking for in the ideal candidate for this position, so I'm just not going to apply at all. This is what a lot of you are doing, and you're ruling yourself out from fantastic opportunities where you actually might be the dream candidate or the dream fit, simply because you noticed a few things that you don't have on the job description, and that maybe that intimidated you. Maybe you felt like you don't want to waste the time of the recruiter. Maybe you felt like you don't want to waste the time of the hiring team, or maybe you just felt, hey, you know what? Maybe you made a couple of assumptions here and there in terms of, hey, maybe these things are really important. I don't have these things, so I'm just not going to apply at all. Folks, big mistake. Right? I'm gonna tell you I'm gonna share with you some, maybe insider information. Some of you might consider this insider information from a recruiter's perspective as to why you should not be doing this. So be prepared to take notes, folks. I'm going to share some great insights, and when you leave this session, I want you to leave feeling more confident in applying for those positions where you might not have 100% of everything listed in the job requirements, but you will have that confidence to still continue and apply for the role and multiply the number of options that you might have for yourself. All right. So that's what I want you to leave with. So today's segment, I'm going to divide into two parts. Part number one, I'm going to tell you exactly what's happening and the real truth about job description and how much weight you should actually give the job description. And the second part of today's session, what I'm going to do is I'm going to share with you what you can do to navigate the situation with job description and how you can leave the session and more maximize the number of opportunities out there you can create for yourself when you're evaluating job descriptions. All right, so that's what I want you to leave with in this session. Quick reminder, folks, hit me up with a like and a share before you continue. Make sure, if this is your first time joining me for this session, make sure you follow me for more regular content. I'm not just putting out live streams, but I post content throughout the week on whatever platform you're watching this on. All right, so hit me up with a like and a share, and make sure you follow me as well. All right, so I got a quick comment here. Just wanted to share. Amit said, "I'm Amit from India. I did connect with you 2 months back. I did it in achieving what was suggested by you." Awesome, fantastic, Amit. Good to hear that. Always great to see you here. Amit goes on to say he got shortlisted with one of the top IT companies. Thanks for your motivation. Wow, I'm so happy to hear that, Amit, and really appreciate that feedback. I'm so happy to hear you were able to get value out of what I share on my sessions, and you were able to apply that. And I'm happy to hear that you got shortlisted for one of those top IT companies. So great going, Amit. Keep it up, and appreciate you tuning in. All right, so let's get into it, folks. Now, what is the truth about job descriptions? All right, now what I can share with you, right, based on my experiences working as now my experience as a recruiter has been 100% in the staffing industry, right, working for recruitment agencies and staffing agencies. And every single meeting I've ever had with a hiring team, where I was actually in a meeting with the hiring team, evaluating the opportunity that they wanted us to recruit on, 100% of the time, folks, I've never had a hiring team tell me, "Dean, we need someone who meets each and every listed qualification on this job description." Never experienced it, folks. And this is the major truth about job descriptions all of you need to understand. Not every single bullet point that you read about on the job description is a definite, absolute must-have requirement for the role. Right now, maybe this might sound like something very simple and common sense for me, but I know a lot of you out there, you're not involved in these recruitment cycles behind the scenes. You might not know about this, and you might not be a hiring manager yourself, and you might not know this. But this is the reality, folks. Right? Not every single bullet point listed on the job description is an absolute requirement for the hiring team. And this is not just me randomly throwing this out there. Like, this is based on meetings that I have had face to face, even maybe not even face to face. Some of them on the phone, some of them on video interview nowadays, but mostly primarily speaking with hiring teams directly. Where every single hiring team, pretty much, that I met up with I've never had a hiring team tell me, "Dean, this is a job description, and we need someone who meets each and every single one of these 20, 30 bullet points listed on the job description." Never experienced that, folks. Here's what I have experienced, though, and it usually comes down to the hiring team letting me know, "Dean, of these things listed in the job description, we really just need someone who has these top 3 or 4 things." And it usually comes down to 3 or 4 items on the job description that are really, really important for the hiring team. And everything else is nice to have, or a bonus, or icing on the cake, or, hey, optional, right? And that's what it comes down to, folks, right? Now, when I say the top 3 or 4 things, that does not mean literally the top 3 or 4 bullet points on the job description. That's not what I'm saying. But what I'm saying is, on the job description, of those 20 to 30 listed items, those listed bulleted items, maybe only 3 or 4 of those are crucial and extremely important to the hiring team. That's what I'm trying to tell you folks out there. So for those of you out there, as you're scouring the job boards, you're evaluating the job postings, you're reading over the job postings and all that stuff, what I'm trying to tell you is, look, it does not come down to each and every one of those 20 to 30 things being evident in your experience or on your resume. What it does come down to is maybe 3 or 4 items listed on that job description, if any. And hey, folks, look, I know this might sound scary, but I've actually had meetings with hiring teams where the hiring teams mention something that is extremely important for the role that's not even listed in the job description. Yeah, I know, crazy, right? And I know some of you might be like, pulling your hair out just hearing that, but it's the truth. Look, a lot of companies, a lot of organizations out there, they use some generic template that they found on the internet, or maybe something that they use internally at their organization for many years, that they use for the official job posting, when in fact the actual hiring requirements might not even be listed in the job description itself, like what's most important. I have had meetings with hiring teams, by the way, folks, where that's been the case, where that's been the situation, right? And it's crazy, right? But again, this is why many organizations utilize the services of recruitment agencies, because they're not depending on their internal postings, right? They partner up with staffing agencies, recruitment agencies, who are going to do the grunt work on their behalf. So look, that's this is the major truth about job descriptions, is it doesn't come down to each and every one of those 20 to 30 things listed in the job description. It usually typically comes down to maybe 3 or 4 things that are crucial on the job description, that are crucial to the company, that they're looking for in their ideal candidate. Now, the second part of the session, I'm going to get into how you can identify those, and then how you can work around that. But this is the first truth about job descriptions. Now, some of you might be feeling frustrated and upset about that. But here's the positive thing, folks. Here's the great thing about this. This means that there might be much more opportunities out there than you're giving yourself credit for, right? A lot of you folks watching this, you might be going through these job postings, and you might be a little too hard on yourself. You might be like, hey, I don't meet 100% of this criteria, so I'm not going to apply at all. Well, I want you to change that mindset, folks, because you do not need to meet 100% of those 20 to 30 bullet points on the job description, right? Because it only comes down to usually 3 or 4 things that are absolutely crucial, non-negotiable for the hiring team. Now, quick caveat to this. Obviously, you need to have the core skills required for the position. All right. So if you're applying for a software development role, you're reading over a software development position. Obviously, it's not an entry level role. It's something at the intermediate level or up. Obviously, you do need to have experience as a software developer. That does not mean that just because it's not listed there, that does not mean it's not important. Like, you have to, like, you let's be practical, folks. All right. That's what I'm basically trying to tell you here. Let's be practical. Yes, it does come down to 3 or 4 items that are crucial for the job, but we got to be practical as well. You need to have those core skills required for the position, because otherwise, you're not going to be considered. So with that being said, now what does this mean for you, right? You being the intelligent job seeker that you are, what are you going to do with this information that I just shared with you? That's the important part, right? That is the important part. And we got a comment here from my friend Mirza in the house, who says, great, and hope. Not sure if you were trying to type something in there, Mirza. Maybe you're trying to type, hope you get good value out of this session. So I hope you are. So look, folks, what are you going to do with this information? And by the way, let me know in the comments if you already knew about this, or let me know in the comments if this is new information for you. I definitely want to know what you, the viewers out there, feel about this. And if you're enjoying the session so far, make sure you hit me up with that like and that share. I always appreciate those. So look, what are you going to do with that, folks? What are you going to do with this information? Well, the first thing I want to let you know is, now, knowing that not all 20 to 30 bullet points on this job description is required. What does that mean, right? Now, in my experience, folks, now obviously when you're applying for the job, when you're looking at the reading over the job description, you're not going to know which of those 20 to 30 bullet points, of those 20 to 30 bullet points, which are those 3 or 4 that are crucial for the role. You and I are not going to know that at face value, right? That's the challenge a lot of us are going to be facing, and probably a lot of you are wondering, right? At this point, you're like, Dean, well, how do we know what are those three or four key things? And the truth is, folks, when you're at the application stage, when you're simply reading the job description on the job board, on LinkedIn, on Monster, or whatever job board it is, we are not going to know what are those 3 to 4 items. So this is where we have to make an educated guess as to the probability of whether or not we can be a good potential fit for the role. Now, what I suggest is, as you're reading over the job description, if you feel that you meet at least 65% of the requirements for the job description, Okay, now this is not this 65% is just a number I'm suggesting. It's not based on some scientific study or some survey or something like that. But this is based on my own personal recommendation, folks. All right. And if you see, as you're reading over the job description, if you see that you meet at least 65% of what's listed on the job description, my suggestion is, folks, you should apply. Because chances are, if you meet 65% of what's listed on the job description, it means that chances are you probably have those 3 or 4 things that are key for the role, which means you are, in fact, the ideal candidate, even though you don't meet each and every one of those 20 to 30 bullet points. But if you meet 65% of what's listed in the job description, chances are you do meet those 3 or 4 things that are crucial and important for the role. We got a comment here from Raj. Raj, always good to see you. Raj says knew about this, but a lot of JDs have a must-have section. I guess this is a tip-off as to what the crucial items are. Yeah, absolutely, absolutely, Raj. I mean, the must-have section might give a clue to this, but then again, like going from what I mentioned before, a lot of times even this must-have section might have like 10, 15, 20 items listed. So my suggestion, Raj, like I was saying just now, is even in this must-have section, if you feel you meet at least 65% and over of whatever's listed in the must-haves, it means that you should go for it. Go for it, my friend. Right? That's what I'm trying to say here. So look, basically what Raj is saying, folks, is look. Sometimes the job descriptions are divided into must-haves, nice-to-haves, bonus, or nice-to-haves, or optional, and all this stuff. Even within these subsections within the job description, folks, if you meet at least 65% of what is listed in these subsections of the job description, you should apply for it. All right. So going by Raj's example here, if you're reading over a job description, you're reading over the must have section, the must have area. If you're seeing that within this must have subsection, you meet at least 65% of what's listed in this must have area, you should apply. All right, and again, this is again based on my experiences, folks. Right, meeting with hiring teams. Like Raj, I have met with hiring teams where their official job description has these must-have sections, and even within these must-have sections, maybe 3 or 4 things are absolutely crucial for the role. So I would stick to this rule, folks. Right, if you meet at least 65, maybe if you want to push it 70%, if you meet 65 to 70% of what's listed as requirements for the role, go for it, folks. That would be my suggestion. Great comment there, Raj. Thanks for sharing that. Uh, so we got a question here from Avneet Singh. So shout out to Avneet. Thanks for tuning in, Avneet. Avneet says, "Can I still apply if I qualify with at least one bullet point? That is to say, 10% of qualification for the senior position." No, I mean no, Avneet. Right. So Avneet, if I understand your question correctly, you're saying that should you apply if you only meet one of the qualifications, like you only meet like 10% of the qualifications for the role, then no. I mean look, folks, this is what I'm saying, right? Like what I'm saying is, if you have to meet at least 65% plus of the requirements in the role. Otherwise, statistically, anything lower than that, statistically, you're probably not the right fit. You're probably not the right candidate. So obviously, Avneet, if you only meet 10% of the overall qualifications, then no, you should not. That means you are not the ideal candidate. You're just going to be wasting your time. You're probably going to be wasting the time of the recruiter, whoever it is at the company as well, right? So let's be practical, folks. Let's use some common sense here, right? So if you're meeting, I mean, 10% is extremely low, right? I mean, if you said if I meet 50%, even I might be like 50%, yeah, still go for it maybe. But my recommendation, folks, for Avneet and everyone else out there, if you meet 65% and above of what's listed on the job requirements, then chances are you probably do meet those 3 or 4 things, right? So if 65% and above, go for it. 65% down to 50%, hey, use your judgment here, right? Use your common sense, be practical. If you still feel like, yeah, you could still be a great fit, then yeah, go for it. But anything below 50%, folks, I would say don't go for it. All right. So that being said, let's move on. Now, my second suggestion is, all right. So the first suggestion on how you can navigate this is simply, if you have at least 65% of what's listed on the entire job description, you should go for it. You should definitely go for it. Now, the second thing is, and again, this goes back to, we do not know what those 3 or 4 most important crucial items are on the job description. So knowing this and knowing, okay, I meet 65% plus of what's going on, what's required for the role. What do you need to do in addition to this, knowing this information? We got a question here from Marcus from Instagram. So shout out to Marcus. Thanks for your question. So Marcus says, hi Dean, Marcus from Toronto. Is the years of experience a key point? If they are asking for 6 years of experience and I have only 4, I don't apply. Seeking a developer job. Okay, so great question. So what Marcus is asking is, what about years of experience? So again, Marcus and everyone else out there, this is where you have to practice your own judgment, folks. Right now, Marcus, based on my experiences working as a recruiter, the difference between 4 years and 6 years of experience is not that much. I mean, unless there's something significant that is also required in the role that you might not have experience with, I would say no, this is not an issue, Marcus, right? So if you're applying for a role and it's only a 2-year difference here, I would say still go for it, as long as you meet 65% of what's required for the role. Again, I would say go with the 65% rule, Marcus, right? If you meet 65% of what's required for the role, and the only thing you don't have is that additional 2 years of experience, I would say still go for it. Still go for it, Marcus, right? As a recruiter, I have presented candidates to my clients that did not meet the actual number of years of experience. They might have a year or two less than what's required for the role. So still go for it, Marcus, right? So I would say if you meet, again, if you, I know I'm sounding like a broken record here, but if you meet overall, if you meet 65% of what's required for the role, I say go for it, Marcus, because a 2-year difference is not that different, right? Now, if it was like, you have like 3, 4, 5, or anything less than that, like, probably you're not the right candidate. It means they're looking for someone with more years of experience. But a 2-year difference, I don't think that's significant, Marcus. I'd say still go for it, right? So hope that helps, my friend. Thanks so much for your question. All right, so moving on to how you can deal with this. Now, the second tip is, okay, we meet 65% of what's required for the role. All right, what's required on the job description. You're going to go ahead and apply for it. But now the other thing is, we don't know, again, going back to what I mentioned before, we don't know what are those 3 or 4 things that are crucial for the position. So what does this mean? Well, this means, folks, you have to customize your resume for the job description. Now, I know this might be time consuming. I know this might seem tedious, but we don't know at this point, okay, unless you have spoken to the recruiter or some point of contact at the company who lets you know what are those top 3 or 4 things. Unless that's your case, we do not know at this point what are those 3 or 4 key things. So we have to customize our resume, right? So you read over the job description, you determine those items you do have experience with. Now I want you to go to your resume and I want you to highlight and emphasize those things on the job description you do have experience with on your resume. Now, this will increase your chances of getting the attention of recruiters and hiring managers, because again, you want to highlight those things that are going to get the attention that's important to the recruiter, the hiring manager, or whoever's looking over your resume. And at the application stage, folks, we don't know what are those things, right? Unfortunately. All right. Unfortunately, we don't know at this point. All we have is a job description in front of us. We don't know what are those 3 or 4 things that are crucial for the role. So what does that mean? That means we have to highlight those 65% plus items on the job description that we do have experience with. We want to highlight and emphasize those on our resume so that when someone's reading over the resume, they're going to pick out on those 3 or 4 things that's important to them. So the second part of this is, in order to navigate this, is we have to customize our resume and emphasize those things. Anything we see on the job description that we do have experience with, we want to emphasize and highlight those on our resume so that when the recruiter's reading over the resume, they're going to see those key things that they're looking for on your resume. So that's the second part, folks. All right. So let's see. We got some comments here. We got Marcus on Instagram says, thank you so much. Hey, no worries, Marcus. Appreciate you tuning in. Hope that helps out, my friend. So we got Olusegun. Olusegun, hope I pronounced your name correctly, my friend, but appreciate you tuning in. So Olusegun says, how do applicants handle interview questions from the 35% that are not covered by their experience? Okay, so great question there, Olusegun. Now, first thing, folks, and for anyone who is experiencing this is a great question. Great question by Olusegun. By the way, Olusegun, this is such a great question. I want to offer you my free PDF, how to run a recruiter through your resume. Okay, it's a free PDF that I have. And in the PDF, I actually have a sample script on how you should be running recruiters through your resume. So send me a direct message, Olusegun, after the session. Send me a direct message and just remind me. I will send you a free copy of that PDF. It's a great PDF. You can use that in your conversations with recruiters. All right. And folks, I'm giving out free stuff to anyone who puts in a great question or great comment. All right. So keep that participation going. So Olusegun, send me a direct message afterwards. I'd love to send you that free PDF. All right, my friend. So let's get into your question. All right. So Olusegun says, how do applicants handle interview questions from the 35% that are not covered by the experience? Now, two things, Olusegun, right? I want you to, and everyone else out there, two things I want you to really, really pay attention to. Number one is, remember, if you are sitting there at an interview, right? Obviously, they know that you don't have experience with that 35% because obviously that was not listed on your resume. So the first thing, folks, mental shift here, okay? Mental shift warning, psychological thing right here, okay? So pay good attention. First thing is, you would not be at the interview if that 35% was extremely, extremely important, right? Because if that 35% was extremely important, they would notice you do not have that on your resume and they would probably not be calling you in for an interview. All right. So this is the mental shift, is do not let this intimidate you, right? Olusegun and everyone else out there, do not be intimidated by this 35%. Always remember, they called you in for an interview. You're sitting at the interview because they felt that you would be a great potential fit based on what they saw on your resume. That's why you're sitting there at the interview. So that's the first thing, folks. All right. Now the second thing is, now how do you okay, fair enough, Dean, you're you folks are like, okay, fair enough, Dean, but how do I handle this if they do ask about something that is in that 35% that I do not have experience with? Well, the second way how to handle this, I'm going to divide into two parts, Olusegun, right? Now, if they ask about the 35% that you do not have experience with, something I always recommend to any candidate that I have ever represented, right, as a recruiter, is there's two ways to handle those type of questions, right? Now, number one is, you want to emphasize, maybe you don't have direct experience with what they're asking you about. The first way is, you want to give examples of something you have similar experience with. Okay, they're asking about experience with ABC, whatever ABC is. You don't have any direct experience with ABC, but you do have experience with something very similar to ABC. Let's call it XYZ. Maybe it's a product, maybe it's a software. Okay, maybe you don't have experience with Microsoft PowerPoint. I'm just going to use an example. Okay, they ask you about Microsoft PowerPoint. You don't have experience with PowerPoint, but you have experience with the Mac, the Apple software. What's the Apple one called? I think it's called Apple Keynote. You don't have experience with PowerPoint, but you have experience with Apple Keynote, which is a similar presentation software. So what you want to do is, you want to put the emphasis on showing how you don't have experience with directly with what they're asking about, but you do have experience with something very similar that you're experienced with, and you want to highlight the similarities, and you want to sell them on these similarities, and sell them on why, because of that, you won't have much difficulty picking up on what they have at their organization. So an example might be, hey, they asked me about ABC, so I'll say, Mr. and Mrs. Hiring Manager, I don't have any direct experience with ABC. However, I do have experience with XYZ, which is a very similar product, and the similarities are blah 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 blah, right? And because of these similarities, I'm definitely able to pick up on ABC, which is what you're using at your organization, and that's how you would structure your response, right? Now, maybe you don't have any experience at all with anything similar to this 35% they're asking about. Well, in that situation, what you want to do is, you want to give an example in the past where you were thrown into a project where you had to pick up on something brand new, and you were able to pick up on it, you were able to learn it, pick up on it, and deliver results, successful results, by the way, to the organization without much issue. So in that case, you want to say, hey, Mr. and Mrs. Hiring Manager, I don't have experience with ABC, which is what you're asking about. However, I have been in plenty of situations in the past where I've been thrown into projects where I had to learn and pick up on new things, and I was able to deliver successful results. An example of this was when I was at company blah blah blah. This was the situation. This was the project. I had to learn it I had to learn this tool or this software entirely new from scratch. I learned it. I picked up on it. This was what I did. This was what I implemented. These were the results. I did it successfully, and I'm very confident I can do the same for your organization. So that's how I recommend you deal with these situations, folks. Right. So two ways you can handle this. Number one, show an example of something similar you have experience with, and the second way is just give an example of situations in the past where you picked up on and delivered on something entirely new that you learned, that you picked up on, and you delivered successful results. So that's how you deal with the 35%, folks. All right. So hope this helps, Olusegun. Hope that made sense. Let me know in the comments. And again, send me a direct message after the session. I want to send you my free PDF on how to run recruiters through your resume. All right. So great question. Great question there. We got Raj. Raj says, I've experienced this. I had an interview where most of the questions were from the portion I didn't know. The best you can do is ask exploring questions that try to relate to something you do have experience with. Needless to say, I bombed that interview though. All right. Yeah. But yeah. So Raj followed, a part of the process that I was talking about, right? He talked about stuff he did have experience with. So that's what I would suggest. Lois Adura says, Olusegun, great question. Yeah, it was a great question by Olusegun. So we got one more question here from Viren. So Viren, shout out to Viren, all the way from New Zealand. Wow, love seeing people all the way from New Zealand tuning in. So Viren says, I have one question regarding after getting rejection from one company, and if I have to apply again in that same company, so I have to wait 6 months, and if I applied, I got rejection straight away. Okay, so I'm not sure I understand the wording of this question, Viren. So let me read it again. I have one question regarding after getting rejected by a company. If I have to apply again in that same company, I have to wait 6 months. And if I applied, I got rejections straight away. Yeah. So I'm not sure, Viren, if you're asking a question here or if you're making a statement here. So if this is a question, do you have to wait 6 months to apply? I say no, folks. Look, we're not breaking the law, right? Like, what do you have to lose by applying again? Just apply. You have nothing to lose. You didn't have the job in the first place, so you don't have anything to lose by just applying again. I would say just go for it, Viren, right? That would be my advice to you. Just go for it. You have nothing to lose. And try and make direct contact. Try and make direct contact with the potential hiring team and the hiring managers. All right. So hope that helps, Viren. And that's a great, I guess, a great question there. Olusegun says, brilliant. Thank you, Dean, for the detailed response. Hey, no worries, Olusegun. Hope that helps. So looks like that's it for questions and all that stuff, folks. So look, I hope everyone got some great information from today's session. So remember, folks, do not write yourself off, right? Just because you do not meet 100% of the criteria listed in the job description does not mean you still might not be an actual dream candidate for the company. And again, I have met with hiring teams many times over the years, and it's always come down to, hey, Dean, we just need someone who meets these 3 or 4 criteria. This is what's most important for us in an ideal candidate. And oftentimes, folks, those 20 to 30 things you see listed in the job description, all 20 to 30 things are not important, folks. Do not make that assumption, please. A lot of you are ruling yourself out for positions where you're like a fantastic fit because you chose to believe that each and every one of those things listed in the job description is required. Not every one of those things are required, folks, right? But we do have to approach this intelligently and pragmatically, all right? Because we don't know what are those 3 or 4 important things. So that means we have to see, hey, if I meet 65% of what's listed in this job description, I'm going to apply, right? Because statistically, chances are, and the odds are, if you meet 65% of what's listed in the job description, chances are you probably do meet those 3 or 4 things that's crucial to the position, for the success in the position. And the second thing is we have to customize our resume. Yes, you meet 65% plus, so chances are you probably are in an ideal position for the role. But now we got to do some work. We got to review the job description. We got to take note of those things we do have experience with, right? That minimum 65%. And now we got to communicate that on our resume. We got to communicate, emphasize, highlight those things on our resume so that we're able to highlight, of those 65% plus, we know that we're going to be highlighting those 3 or 4 items that are important and crucial to the hiring team. All right. Hey, this is Dean Kulaweera here. Thanks so much for tuning in every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, folks. I'm right here. So make sure you tune in. Make sure you mark your calendars. I'm here to help you folks out with job search tips, advice, and strategies. Shout out to everyone on YouTube, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, my people on Instagram as well for tuning in. Hope everyone it's close to lunchtime. I can barely communicate at this point, but hey, I hope everyone got great information out of today's session. All right. So wait, one more question here. We got a question here from Lois Adura. So Lois says, so shout out to Lois. Thanks so much for tuning in. So Lois says, as a recruiter, please help me out. I keep getting rejection due to lack of experience. What do I do to get an entry point job to get experience? Okay, so Lois, so this is a great question, right? And I know a lot of you might be facing this out there, right? So Lois is like, look, I keep getting rejected due to a lack of experience. What do I do to get an entry point job to get experience? So Lois, I'm not sure of your situation, but I would assume maybe maybe you're in a career transition. I'm not sure. Maybe you're transitioning from a different career into another field. And I guess your question is, how do I get entry into this new field that I don't have experience with? Well, if that's your situation, Lois, and maybe I might need some more information here, but I'm assuming that's your situation. But if that's the case, Lois, what you got to look for, the first thing I want you to do, Lois, is whatever previous field you were in, I want you to look for transferable skills into this new field you're trying to get into. All right. Whatever, I don't care what your previous field is. It does not count. It doesn't mean it doesn't count for anything. It counts for a lot. You need to look at your previous field, your existing experience you bring to the table, and you need to figure out, Lois, and take out a sheet of paper. What are my transferable skills that I can apply to this new field I'm trying to get into? And those transferable skills, Lois, that's what I want you to focus on. That's what I want you to emphasize on your resume. That's what I want you to focus on in your conversations. And that's what I want you to focus on your cover letter, your resume, and all that stuff. Those transferable skills are what you're going to leverage for this new field that you're trying to get into. Now, the second thing, Lois, is you definitely want to focus your efforts on the entry level roles or the roles requiring a minimum amount of experience. And the other suggestion I have for you, Lois, is focus your efforts on networking and making direct contact with potential hiring managers, right? They're the real decision makers, right? And I'm saying this as a recruiter. Look, oftentimes recruiters are tasked with looking for very specific candidates, right? So if you're transitioning from a different field, maybe the recruiters might not be giving you a fair chance, right? So what you want to do is you want to see if you can make direct contact with actual hiring managers, potential hiring managers, that'll hear you out and take an assessment as to what you're bringing to the table, what you're leveraging and bringing to the table, and seeing if they can give you a shot, because they're the ultimate decision makers, right? So look, hope that helps, Lois. Great question here. All the best, and definitely keep me posted. And make sure you tune in every Wednesday, folks. Every Wednesday, 11 a.m. Eastern time zone, right here. I'm always here live to help you folks out, and I talk about various job search and recruitment tips, advice, strategies, and topics to help you folks out. All right. We got Marcus on Instagram, and Marcus says, "Thanks, Dean. Feeling more confident going for the 65%." All right, awesome, Marcus. Good to hear that. So go for it, folks. All right. Stay positive. Keep taking action. Stay proactive, folks. And I'll see you again next week. All right. Have a great remainder of the week, folks.